Good afternoon, Britannia, and hello to the rest of the world. Welcome to 2CTV and the first live update of the day. The betrayal that started with Tony Blair was continued under the Tory government for years and years. And that legacy is now being carried on by this new Labour government under the leadership of Keir Starmer. The prisons across this country are at full capacity. There's a problem with that. The Labour Party have announced that they're going to be potentially releasing a lot of prisoners early before they even reach half of their sentence. That's one problem. And a second problem is, of course, the European judges who are still ruling over our judiciary at times using ECHR and the Human Rights Act. And of course, all the other issues means a grooming gang leader is going to be released early. Right, as I said, this problem started under the Tory government, but the Labour government have had a few days now to stop some of these things, to reverse some of these managerial nonsense that we had. But no, they are not doing it. Let's not forget, this is our new Justice Secretary in charge of our judiciary, in charge of our judges and our lawyers. Yes, Shabana Mahmood, who is, of course, who believes that in the concept of from the river to the sea, and prioritizing, of course, the issues in Gaza over our own problems in the UK. She's in charge of the judiciary. Now, one problem that we've had is that over the last few days, since Keir Starmer, of course, started the new government, he said, we're going to do things quickly, proactively, we're going to be fast, we're going to be smooth, and we're going to reverse some of the policies. He cancelled the anti-illegal immigration bills that, for example, included the Rwanda plan. Not that I was a fan of the Rwanda plan, but, he cancelled that very quickly, made big changes already, and is going to be implementing Gordon Brown's reforms to give more powers to Sadiq Khan and the SNP and all the others, the devolved administrations. But they don't really care much about judicial reforms. This man, one of the leaders of these gangs in Rotherham, who targeted a 13-year-old girl, an actual child, only a few years ago, not that long ago. His name is Mohammed Imran Ali Akhtar, 42, pleaded guilty to at least 2 counts at Sheffield Crown Court in 2023. He was imprisoned, not just because of what he himself did by targeting that 13-year-old girl, who's still a teenager right now, but actually by being a leader in these gangs. He's going to be released early. Again, as I said, let's not forget this problem started under the Tory government. Well, technically speaking, under Tony Blair's, but the Tories had 14 years to make changes, to reverse these decisions, to block these decisions even last minute, but they didn't. Keir Starmer, the Labour government have been told for the past few days, this is going to happen. No passion when it comes to stopping this. We got many more around the country. You can see from Blackburn, Canterbury, Leeds, Peterborough, Bristol, Telford, of course, Oxford, Newcastle, Huddersfield, so many other places. And of course, primarily you can see they are from the Pakistani background and Islamic. All this. But because of political incorrectness, nobody's been talking about this. Of course, people like Tommy Robinson, they started talking about this 15 years ago, even longer. But the issue we now have is that some politicians have started talking about this over the last couple of years, some of the more right-leaning ones. The issue we now have is that there doesn't seem to be any, as I said, passion to make this stop quicker compared to all the other decisions that this Labour government over the last week have already been making very quickly. Quick changes, left, right and centre. The Tories didn't do anything. Labour are doing things, but not this. The problem we have with the prisoners is one issue, as I said at the beginning of the live stream, was our UK prisons are at full capacity. Seems like some of the obviously criminals are going to be released early anyway. They did tell us that they are going to be those with softer crimes. Despite not even serving half of their sentence, softer crimes will be released. Seems like that's not really the only one. One issue is the full capacity of prisons, But apparently, they will have space for people like Tommy Robinson on the 29th of July to send him to jail, but not the others, right? That's one issue. Second issue, as I said, is ECHR, European judges, and the Human Rights Acts that we have that's been creating this mess. This mess, when it comes to the Rotherham gang leader that is being released, is in his early 40s. He's going to go back to the neighborhood, and of course, that girl that he targeted and his gang is still a teenager. Imagine being her and her family. How would you feel, right? That problem primarily goes back to what Tony Blair started with the Human Rights Act and everything else. The justice system has not been properly reformed, even under the Conservative government. So most of the blame goes back to the Tories because they had 14 years. 14 years of doing something. They didn't. But now, the reason I'm criticizing Keir Starmer and the Labour government is because they said from day one, last week, from day one, they will do things differently compared to the Tories. The Tories were very slow. The Tories were very slow with anything, even fixing a potholes or whatever. They would say, oh, well, this policy will take half a century. Keir Starmer and the Labour government, over the last week, they've made a lot of changes immediately. Also, another perfect example is during the 2020 years, when we had the decision by Parliament to shut down the economy, introduce lockdowns, all those things using legislations. They managed to do emergency legislations last minute, very quickly, debating it for a couple of hours and voting it in. So when Parliament, when the executive in Downing Street want to make changes, they can. When they are told about what's happening right now with Rotherham gang leaders, for example, and the others, they have time to do something. They have time to at least make a statement. At least tell us what's happening. Keir Starmer's job as Prime Minister is to say, well, we're going to try and actually change the system. The idea behind this, by the way, the Home Office are saying that what we're going to be doing is when we release these people, we're going to try and deport them. How are you going to deport them? That's the promise, by the way. We're going to release them early. We're going to deport them. The Tory Home Secretaries have been saying this for a long time. Unless you change the system, you can't easily deport them because the human rights lawyers are going to be blocking those flights. So good luck, for example, when it comes to this idiot. What was his name again? Mohammed Imran Ali Akhtar. Good luck with his deportation. And even if they manage to deport him, just one example, what about all the others? What's going to happen with this? What about all these guys? The Tories have been trying. They failed. Trying. Not trying hard enough. You need to reform the system. You can't just wishy-washily try to find ways to say, oh yeah, if they get released, we're going to try and pick them up and deport them. What do you mean? You have to explain to the public what the plan is. You can't release a gang leader and he's going to go around again, freely walking our streets until you find the time to deport him. And then the left-wing lawyers will block the flight and he'll be freed again to walk around the streets. Keir Starmer knows how the system works. He was part of CPS, the Crown Prosecution Services. Let's go to some of the Super Chat reactions. First one, thank you very much, saying ridiculous ones in prison are only a pinch of what slip out the courts. Scot-free, as Tommy knows, it's not just the grooming, it's horrific abuse and cover-ups. This is the key point. We have a few of them in prisons. The majority are still already out, living freely. That is a whole different problem anyway. But obviously, for now, we're just focusing on the actual prisoners, the actual criminals who've been convicted. Forget about the ones who still haven't been caught, because every time they get caught, they find a way to get released. AFC Man UK, thank you for your super chat, saying it's unfortunate that this man is being released, but he was 7 years into a 13-year sentence. It's normal to be released after doing half the time. He'll do the rest on the probation. He should be deported. See, this is exactly how they get to your head. Over the last few decades, in the United States of America, in Canada, in the United Kingdom, in all our countries, what they've done, in Anglosphere especially, they've liberalized the justice system in the name of being more humane. They made a situation where AFC Man UK says it's normal. Accept it. It's normal. It's been like this for a long time. You don't have to serve your full sentence. It's normal. It's not normal. It should never be acceptable. The system must be reformed. It hasn't been for decades, up to a point where we just take it as an acceptable fact that if you get a 5-year sentence, you can be released after 2.5 years. What's the point of having a 5-year sentence? Why do we even have a 5-year sentence? Why do we have a 7-year sentence? Why do we have a 13-year sentence, for example? These people, firstly, should be life. Depending on the actual level of crime and the threat coming from you as the individual, if you get released, to society, if you get life, life should mean life. Not 20 years, not 13 years. It's nonsense. Anthony from Australia says, what can be done now to save Britain's future? I worry about the survival of the UK. Unfortunately, I could say the same about most of the Anglosphere these days. I think things have to get worse before they get better, before some strong leader to come up to actually make the radical changes that should not be called radical. We are simply trying to make the country better and stronger. We simply want the constitution to be respected. We simply want the justice system to be fair and just. That's all. You don't have to necessarily bring back hanging. I'm not even saying that. But life should mean life. If someone is a threat to society, firstly, if they're foreigners, you just have to deport them. Don't even imprison them. Because that's a cost to the taxpayer. I don't want them in our prisons. Alison Brown, thank you, saying anyone staying at the chorus until Hyde Park on 27th? That's a whole different conversation. Vanda says you couldn't make this BS up, Maya. For God's sake, I know. It's insane. Philip Turner says this is a disgrace. This man should have never been let out of prison, ever. Well, firstly, as I said, he shouldn't have been in prison in the first place. Just you should have kicked him out. But if you are now a British citizen, and if he was, for example, hypothetically born here, which obviously it wasn't, then life should mean life, and not 13 years, not 20 years, not 25 years. Just give him proper sentencing. Catherine says, absolutely disgusting. What an insult to his victims, but understandable when you look at who our Justice Minister is. I think we can expect a lot more of these groomers to be released. Just as a reminder, if you joined this live stream late, this is our new Secretary of State for Justice, Minister of Justice. Of course, Shabana Mahmood, who has different priorities when it comes to her political causes, goes around talking about from the river to the sea. But this government is also going to be slow when it comes to important issues, just like the Tories. Not much will change. Not even 60% of verdict. This is totally insane. What about justice for the victims? That's not really the priority right now for the system. That's the issue. Paul says, look how quickly they built the COVID centers and Nightingale Hospital. Prisons are too big and ask. Not like we have discussed disused the airfields full of illegals. So, politically speaking, it's so controversial as a politician to come out to say, as part of your manifesto or political program, saying, I would like to build 2 more prisons. Everybody will kick off. That's why no politician is brave enough to come out to say that. None of them is going to say, we're going to build more prisons, because people are going to be like, well, what do you have planned for us? No, we just simply need more prisons. We do. Firstly, we do need to do mass deportations with the illegals and foreign criminals. We know that. Still, the population is rising. We haven't built new prisons in a long time. We need at least a couple extra ones. That's just the rise of population in general anyway. But nobody is planning that. The main parties. And it's not really just about the capacities. Also, as I said, the problem with the sentencing and the justice system in general. Too much liberalism has been introduced in the justice system. And when you criticize it, they say, oh, you want to bring back the 1700s. No. Just common sense. Common sense justice. It's not really rocket science. Give, obviously, opportunities for those with petty crimes and softer crimes to do rehabilitation. Absolutely. But when a sentence is supposed to be harsh, keep it harsh. As I said, life should mean life. What's the point of calling it life when it's not life? Life sentence. Surely this cannot be allowed to happen. He's a threat and should not be considered for early release and should be deported. When his sentence is served, the child grooming is not a soft crime. So that's the plan that they have apparently, but it's not really going to happen when it comes to deportations because the European judges and the Human Rights Act. This is the whole point. And they introduce restrictions and authoritarian ideas that block the Constitution and our legislations. The political left use nice words. For example, they call it the Human Rights Act. So if you want to criticize it, they say, so you hate human rights? No. It's the name of the legislation, which is stupid. And you just have to bring it out, reform the whole thing, bring back the actual, create a British Bill of Rights for everybody else. And we have to do this. Of course, this story came to us thanks to Maggie Oliver, who also discussed this on Patrick Christie's show. And obviously people like her have also been trying to keep an eye on a lot of these individuals, including this Mohammed guy, the leader of Rotherham gang. But will it get proper coverage? I've been waiting for the past few hours. Keep an eye on the mainstream media. Almost 0% coverage on this story. Basically zero. Go on Google. Search it. See what BBC is saying about this. See what Sky is saying about this. Quiet. But Maggie Oliver obviously came out and reported it. Joy says, I don't get the psychology behind ruining your own beautiful land and culture. He's a knight. Oh, that's Keir Starmer. He's respected and whatever he is because of his homeland. So why would you try to ruin everything? So that's the thing. Most of what's happening with this story is the fault of the Tories. We know that. 14 years, didn't do anything. This was going to happen anyway. But the reason I'm criticizing Keir Starmer is because Keir Starmer, as I repeated myself again, over the last week, he said he's going to do things proactively. And he's been doing things proactively. Left, right and center. They are reversing decisions. They are scrapping policies. They're introducing new policies. They've created new bureaucracy, new quangos, new bodies in the Treasury. They've done all that in less than a week. But nothing has been done to stop these sort of things because it's not really getting coverage by the media. Anyway. Psychotic Otter says, I don't usually like you humans, but Maya, you're okay. Thank you, Mr. Otter. Also psychotic. The Rose says, deport Cocky Poppy. Oh, Poppy in the live chat. What's happening now? What's she saying now? I haven't actually checked it out. Barbara says, does this mean the man involved in the new murder hunt will not even go to prison, even if he's got... No. Oh, that's a good point. So obviously there's this other story that's going around. There's a manhunt. I'm pretty sure they haven't found him yet, have they? No, they're still trying. There's a guy called Kyle Clifford. Just going to quickly put a picture on him on the screen as well. He's a takeaway to 3 people's lives, 3 women. Well, a mother and 2 daughters. And where's the... Just put it on the screen for you guys to see. This is Kyle. Oop. There we go. There's currently, obviously, he's on the run, right? And Hertfordshire police are trying to locate him, of course. But there's a question. They are saying there's not enough prison spaces, right? They said they're going to be releasing prisoners early. There's literally no capacity, basically, at this point, right? They said they're going to be releasing some early. That's still going to take a while, by the way. What's going to happen to this man when he's caught alive, if he's caught alive, right? That's another question. Apparently, they have space for Tommy Robinson. On the 29th of July, they're coming for Tommy. They have space for him. It's okay. But what about Kyle? Of course, they're going to have space for him because this story is now all over the mainstream media. If the mainstream media is covering something, something will be done. Even if it's done as a plaster, just window dressing. They're going to have to do it. Of course they're going to have to do it. But what about the other people like him? He's got 13 years. The victim, on the other hand, got a life sentence. Let's not forget about the victims because the victims, it ruins their lives forever. So they do technically get a life sentence because of the PTSD, because of the trauma they go through, and obviously in terms of in the community and everybody else, they become completely vulnerable people forever. That's a life sentence that nobody talks about on a psychological level, on a societal level. Will Alex Belfield be released? To be fair, if they go ahead with these plans, I do believe someone like Alex Belfield will be on that list to be released, because I think he's already been in for 2 years, right? I think it's been about 2 years, right? And I think his sentence was supposed to be 5, if I'm not wrong. So I think he's definitely going to be one of those who will be released serving less than half of the sentence. Nina, thank you for your super chat, saying this has made my blood boil. Totally agree. Life means life and should be deported right now. And are they going to mention this on BBC? So far, nothing. Obviously, as I said, apart from Maggie Oliver talking about it on Patrick Christie's show on GB News, nobody else. Rachel says the pedophiles are not British, should be deported and ban them from the UK. You're going to have to leave ECHR, you're going to have to change the relationship that you have, even with the United Nations and the international lawyers and judges. You can't just do things because you do not have a sovereign country. Despite Brexit, that's the problem. Anthony says, I think it's time for Britain to revisit its position on capital punishment like Florida. That's not even the main solution, because we have bigger problems than whether you have capital punishment or not. The problem is just primarily about all the crimes, from theft to kidnapping to drugs to, of course, these gangs. Different sentence. The issue we have is not necessarily capital punishment. That's not going to change anything. It's never changed anything anyway. Because what are you going to do? Unless you're going to do capital punishment for all the crimes, then do it. Fine. Go crazy. You steal an apple, you're done. The problem we have is with all the others as well. All the thieves, the burglars, the muggers, those who do treason. What are you going to do with them? The problem we have with them is that they give you 5 years and you come out after 3 years, after 2 years. The whole system is broken. It's not necessarily about, wow, let's just go after the murderers. There's a few of them. Yeah. You can get rid of them. Then what? You think you just eliminated crime? It doesn't go anywhere. Oh, we're deterrent. Yeah, we tried that for centuries. It doesn't go anywhere. I'm not saying pro or against capital punishment. I'm saying that the problems are deeper than that debate. But Anthony makes a good point anyway, in general. Nancy from Canada says, I really want to swear, but won't help. Makes me want to take the law into my own hands. So I don't blame people for getting frustrated. And they got to a point, there have been countries where they did lose control. Decades ago, in Italy. They lost control. The system became corrupt, and it's remained corrupt for a long time, the Italian establishment. So when you look at the south, people in Italy decided to take the law into their own hands. And Cosa Nostra came back in a very strong way in the early 20th century again, mid-20th century, because of that as well. Justice on a local level. Vigilantes. Do you really want that? Or do you want to have a state that could actually respect you enough to look after you? To prevent the need for vigilantes. Super chat from the Sheepman. Thank you very much for the support. And Ruth as well from the United States. Anyway. There was a comment about vigilantes. Where has it gone? There we go. James says, so now there will be vigilantes, you'll see. And then obviously then the government will come for them. And then they'll be in prison. And then the prison will be full. They don't really have a full solution, do they? We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back at 5 p.m. in about half an hour or so and talk about the relationship between the European Union and Hungary, because it's all kicking off again. Ursula von der Leyen is not happy with Viktor Orban. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.